Tonight's show is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika. Get ready to smile.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight. Really do appreciate it. While you're here, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And yes, I know it's been a rough week, but subscribe to Braves on Deck anyway. We keep up with all things Atlanta Braves, all things Atlanta sports. Really, we're here for you. We got a lot to talk about tonight, as you can see probably by the chat and what is in it. A lot of people are frustrated, and rightfully so. We're going to talk about everything going on here in Atlanta for the Braves, because boy, oh boy, has it been a rough week. I think we can all agree with that. We just got done with the series against the Brewers. I was actually at two of these games, was in post-game for two of these games. And man, it was tough to be around. I got to be honest with you. The Braves get swept. They lose the first one 10-0. They lose the second one 8-5. They lose today's game 16-7 for a total of being outscored 34-12. Everyone is upset. That is clear. If you've been on social media today, if you have watched the game, I'm sure you're upset. And with being upset, everyone also has an opinion about what needs to change. And what we're going to start out with tonight is kind of to talk about that, right? Talk about what needs to change, what doesn't need to change, who should lose a job, who shouldn't lose a job. We're going to talk about that because everybody seems to be talking about that, and we're not going to miss the opportunity to talk about that. Right now, my Twitter feed looks exactly like the comments section. It's a lot of people pointing fingers and, talking about who needs to be gone and who needs to change what they're doing and that kind of thing. We're going to talk about each and really every single one of those positions, including the manager, the general manager, the players, all of it. And I'm going to tell you what I think about it. So, before we do that, again, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck and, of course, with your Atlanta Braves. Now, I mentioned earlier that there's been a lot of people pointing fingers, right? They've been pointing fingers. I'm sure a lot of you have seen fingers pointed at Snit. I have been on my game defending him today on Twitter. If you don't follow me, by the way, please do so. There's the tag right there. You can do that. I posted yesterday that, I'm tired of seeing all the hate towards Snitker, towards AA, towards Kevin Seitzer, towards Austin Riley and Matt Olson. You name it, I've heard it over the past couple of days. And again, I've been sitting there defending pretty much all those guys on Twitter over the past really 24 hours. So if you would give us a follow there, we'd appreciate it. But let's talk about it, right? Who is to blame this year, right? Where do you begin? Well, I think what we'll start with is purely talk about Brian Snitker, because he's been getting just drilled on Twitter today by fans. And I think when you talk about the coaching core, it's more than just Brian Snitker, right? You have your hitting coach, Kevin Seitzer. You have your pitching coach, Rick Kranitz. Let me get it right. You have Matt Tuiasosopo. You have a bunch of different guys with different responsibilities. A lot of people are going to talk about the offense, and all of a sudden it's directly to, let's fire Kevin Seitzer and get somebody else in here who knows how to teach these guys how to hit. That's not how this works. Kevin Seitzer, if you don't remember, also coached the team that set all kinds of crazy offensive records last year. So it's not really a perfect scenario just to decide, all right, well, our hitting's bad, so our coach needs to go. These guys know what they're doing. And really what I would say in terms of the offense is everybody expected a down year, right? Coming off a year where you hit over 300 homers as a team, your batting average was way higher than normal. Everybody expected somewhat back to normal for the league to adjust and that kind of thing. So that didn't surprise me really at all and hasn't so far. I definitely think that there is no doubt about, the coaching core missing some faces. I've heard some chatter about this. David O'Brien tweeted about it yesterday. But we've really been saying it since the beginning of the season that, beyond Snitker, missing guys like, Ron Washington and Eric Young Jr., guys that, do a good job of keeping the team loose and do a good job of putting it out there that, hey, we are one of the best teams in baseball, and creating a positive energy because that's their natural personality. You see those two guys right there, now currently with the Angels, did a great job for the Braves. And, I would say that they haven't changed, right? Just because they've moved to a different organization, their attitude is the same, their standard is the same, and the same goes with the Braves. The problem is the Braves have run into a multitude of issues this year, so we're going to break that down. To wrap it up with the coaching core, and again, I know a lot of folks are pointing fingers. Everybody has an opinion about what needs to change. And if you're watching the game day in, day out, you have a right to an opinion just as much as I do, just as much as anybody does. You have a right to your opinion. But again, I've seen all kinds of fingers pointed. I even saw fingers pointed at Jared Kelenic, which, to be honest with you, took me by surprise a little bit, because I reflected back to April when we were in spring training, thinking to myself, or even March, I would have never thought that Jared Kelenic would be getting pointed at like, that guy needs to do more, when we never really expected him to be the load-bearing bat on the team. And I don't think any, right-minded person is thinking that, but we're just so frustrated with the overall product that all of a sudden Jared Kelenic, who's a streaky player by nature, goes through a little bit of a slump, and we're ready to, get our pitchforks out and torches and go marching. So I think where we're at right now is we just really need to take a breath and really analyze what's going on. So for me, in terms of pointing fingers, if there's anything I'm going to point the finger to, without a doubt, it's injuries. I think that's clear, right? None of these problems are a problem if the injuries don't get in the way. That, I think, is obvious. I think most people would agree with that. A lot of folks would agree with that, and they go, but we weren't exactly playing well even before Acuna and Strider got hurt. My response to that is this. Everybody goes through slumps, right? Everybody does. Acuna started the year off slow. I think we all could expect him to rev his game up at some point. But with him gone, and with many others gone, we saw Ozzie get hurt. We've seen Murphy out for an extended period of time throughout this year. So with those injuries on top of the Acuna injury, things are going to start to expose themselves. Weaknesses are going to start to expose themselves. And that's what we're seeing. In terms of Acuna, and even now Harris and Ozzie being out, that eliminates the threat of a steal. It eliminates good base running for a lot of the case. And really with Acuna out, I've spoken before on the way this lineup works, right? Because it is a functioning tool. When you have Acuna at the start of your lineup, he's going to do one of about three things. He's either going to get a hit and get on base, get a walk and get on base, or he's going to get out, and that's a moot point too. But if he gets on base, the threat of the steal is real. That makes fastballs a lot more prevalent for whoever's behind him, and it makes your lineup more dynamic, which I think is what we're really lacking right now. I think we'll get some of that back once we have Harris back in a week, and I think we'll even get that back once we have Ozzie back come early September. But I do think it's a problem, and I don't think we were ever going to replace Ronald Acuna's production in that category, but I think we can mimic it a bit with those two guys back. So let's dispel some of these, finger pointers and just get this out there. I've seen people say, the team isn't playing well. We need a change. We need a new message to the team. Snitz lost the clubhouse. I've heard all of it. I disagree wholeheartedly with that notion, because at the end of the day, you're going to sit here and tell me that the guy who has been with this organization for 40 years, has won Manager of the Year multiple times over, has won the division 6 years in a row, has won a World Series. You're going to sit here and tell me that the first year that it doesn't exactly go to plan, well, time to let him go. He's done. That's not how any of this works. And I think what a lot of people need to realize is, just because you decide to fire somebody, and let's say they fire Snit, they bring in the best possible candidate known demand, you're still not going to have continuity within the clubhouse. There's still going to be a transitional period. I remember back in 2011, 2012-ish, a lot of folks wanted Bobby Cox gone, right? A lot of folks wanted Bobby Cox to hang up the cleats. Hall of Fame career, but a lot of folks thought it was time for new blood. Well, new blood came, and it was in the form of Freddie Gonzalez. A couple years later, a lot of folks wanted him gone, right? Baseball managers are not college football coaches. It's not the same task, and it's not the same form of coaching, right? There's a difference there. Baseball managers are game managers. They are not coaches per se. They're not getting the team hyped up in the clubhouse right before the game. That's not how baseball works. And I think a lot of folks think, okay, well, we had a bad season, we got to fire somebody. In baseball, it really works differently. Now, that's not to say that if the team was doing as bad as the White Sox are, that I would think the same thing. But they're not. They're an above 500 team. They still have plenty of a good chance to make it to the postseason. Has it gone to expectation? Absolutely not. And I think Snit would tell you that, and I think he'd be honest about it. But I don't think removing him from the position is going to make things any better than what they are right now. It's just not. And, I even saw somebody say that, Snit doesn't care, he doesn't have passion. Look, this is what I'm going to say. I was there last night. I saw him get ejected, and you can't tell me that guy doesn't care, because I also saw him walk into the press conference room looking madder than any fan in the ballpark, okay, because of how egregious that umpire was, and I think we can all agree with that. Snit is a player's manager. He defends players wholeheartedly. Just last night, he was defending Jorge Soler's defense, saying that we knew that this was going to be a weakness when we got him. We knew that was going to be something we'd have to work at, and it's something that we're going to have to work at. I think the last possible scenario that could have happened is that Snit has lost the clubhouse. I think that is moronic. I don't think it's a legit case. You haven't seen any legit media report it. I don't think that's the case, and I'm just going to tell you, I was in the clubhouse yesterday. That's not the vibe I get. I get frustration, but I really think that's more due to injuries, right? And, there's been a lot of talk about the energy around the clubhouse. That's a real thing, but that doesn't happen just because somebody makes it happen. That happens naturally. It happens over time, and it just hasn't been able to happen because Ozzy's hurt, Strider's hurt, Acuna's hurt, Reynaldo's hurt. Michael Harris is hurt. Max Fried has been hurt. Sean Murphy was hurt. We haven't even had the same lineup for the majority of this year. And in terms of the offense, it's not like anybody can get anything going. I've seen people criticize our starting pitching, and it's the only thing holding us up at the moment. And the reason that things are starting to crack and things are starting to be more prevalent is because you now not only have one starter out, you just had three starters out with Fried and Ronaldo also hurt, as well as Strider. Fried's back, but he didn't have his best stuff coming off the injured list, which I think is to be expected, to be honest with you. Reynaldo's still hurt, and people are having to fill the gaps. And that is what it is, and there is this subject of, there's this piece of this fan base that I think that frustrates me a bit. I understand where they're coming from, but I think they're misinformed a bit, right? Because you have these folks who say, well, don't make excuses. And there's some truth to that. You've never seen Snitker or Alex Anthopoulos go, we just, this happened and that's why we didn't win. No, it's, this is because we did not play good enough, or this is because we did not draft good enough. They have reasons for it. The reason this year is plain and simple. It is injuries, right? I saw folks criticizing how Snit manages the bullpen. Let's talk about that for a second. Again, Reynaldo Lopez not ready to pitch. It was supposed to be his start day. This is yesterday. Bryce Elder is his replacement. He only throws 3 2/3. I'm sorry, this is 2 days ago. Game 1 of the Brewers series. Bryce Elder is his replacement. He's called up from the minors to pitch this game. He only throws 3 2/3. The bullpen does what it can to cover the remaining 5 innings, but then they're now depleted in Game 2. Game 2, Sale doesn't pitch, into late innings. He pitched well, but not for many innings. Another 4 innings had to be covered by the pen. So my point is, how do you expect Brian Snitker to manage around covering 9 innings across 2 days with the bullpen? I mean, how do you do that? Do I even need to bring up Charlie Morton's start today? That's what happens, right? You go through these bad times, and it's not bullpen management, it's bullpen workload. And Brian Snitker hasn't exactly had much of a choice but to work the bullpen like it has, right? Jesse Chavez had 2 innings. Luke Jackson had 2 innings. Dylan Dodd had 2 innings yesterday after being called up from the minors purely to give the Braves some length out of the pen. So that frustrated me when I saw people that said that, because I get what you're saying. Over the past few years, there's probably been moments where you're at home and you're going, man, why is Snit doing this? Why is this what he's doing? I saw somebody in the comments talk about when he brought in A.J. Minter to face 2 righties. I hear you. I do. But what other options did he really have in that moment? And I think at that point, you're bringing in a guy who you trust more than you are looking at, righty-lefty advantages. A.J. Minter is one of your most reliable relievers, so that's who you're going with, hoping that you can salvage one game of this series. So it is what it is. But this is what I'm going to say to cap off the Brian Snitker hate train that I've been, frankly, opposing all day long. No manager would be successful if, as they were prior to, dealing with all of these injuries. No manager would be as successful with all of these injuries, in play. Spencer Strider, Ronald Acuna, Michael Harris, Reynaldo Lopez, Max Fried, and Ozzie Albies. And that's not even all of them, right? Tell me what manager, with losing that much on his team, would be that successful. And I know a lot of folks are going to say, well, are the Braves successful? Okay, I hear you, but think about it. We're a half game out of the wild card. Tell me one other manager, tell me one other team, other organization that would be as successful as what the Braves are right now with all of that in play. If there is any, there's not many. So that's my point. I don't think it's time to fire the manager. I think that's ludicrous. I don't think it's time to fire the general manager, which I can't believe we're having this conversation. Look, and a lot of folks, including myself, were disappointed that the Braves didn't do more at the trade deadline. I was on here telling you that I thought they had to get a starting pitcher, which a lot of you didn't think so. And here we are, and our lack of depth is showing, right? We're seeing that firsthand now. I still believe that was the intention at the deadline, was to land at least one starting pitcher. Until Alex Anthopoulos looks at me dead in the face and says, that's not what we were doing, that's what I'm going to think. Look, I remember a lot of folks didn't want a starting pitcher, and now that Reynaldo's out, now that, Fried's been hurt since then too, our lack of depth is even more evident. So why didn't we get one, right? That's what everybody's saying. It's all about the lackluster trade deadline. That's the problem. I don't think so, because I think AA probably did everything he could within reason to bring more to the table here, right? AA's never been one to sit idly by and just let things happen, right? You mean to tell me the same guy that made all the moves back in 2021 that resulted in a World Series championship, that same general manager just sat and said, okay, well, we'll just get Jorge Soler back, and then waited a whole second day of the deadline and didn't do anything? I doubt it. The problem was, in my opinion, is that the asking price was going to be too high. There wasn't that many needle movers available at the deadline. A lot of folks wanted Garrett Crochet. That didn't happen. You had really the top 2, maybe 3, were Yusei Kikuchi, which brought back a ton of backlash to the Astros GM, Dana Brown. They had to give up a ton for him. Eric Fetty, which I still think was doable, but the Cardinals snagged him up. And other than that, Jack Flaherty, who the Dodgers got, I mean, there just wasn't that many that I would have said, yep, that's our guy. And frankly, if we were to get a good starting pitcher and a good bat, our bullpen's been okay, right? It's been fine. I don't think that's what the weakness was. I definitely think it was starting pitching, and I definitely think it was outfield bat. A lot of folks have criticized the Soler move. It's not exactly what I thought would have been ideal, but I understood it because, frankly, look at our offense. I mean, we lost 10-0 yesterday. I mean, we haven't put up runs a lot this year. So I think once Soler gets comfortable and on his feet, he'll be fine. We'll see how that move ages. But, look, in terms of why didn't we get any starting pitching at the deadline, think about this, right? If you are trading with the Braves at this year's trade deadline and you're looking across the aisle and you have a middle-of-the-road, back-end rotation guy, we'll just call it Jack Flaherty, and you have to choose between the Dodgers and the Braves are telling you, okay, we'll give you this and this, but you're looking at the Braves and you're smelling blood because, well, Reynaldo Lopez is hurt, Max Fried is hurt, Spencer Strider's hurt. Yeah, they're kind of desperate. I'm going to see if I can get some more out of this deal. Probably more so than what Alex Anthopoulos intended to do. And, you can't really blame him there. And if it was too much, it was too much. You can't give up next year for this year. And again, I'm not saying that the Braves are punting this year. I don't think that at all. I think they're going to count on everybody getting healthy. So was it a perfect trade deadline? We've said it before. We've said it again. No, I would have wanted more. But they don't all work out that way. 2021, I think it's fair to say that was a miracle on ice, the fact that happened. But in terms of what this season was meant to be, that's a GM's job, right, is to get you prepared for the season. I want to talk about this for a second because I've seen a lot of folks talk about, well, the GM didn't do his job this year. This is what the opening day roster was, right? Which in turn, this is what the intended roster was meant to be for the year. I want to take a look at this. If it loads, we'll see. 4 pitchers. You would have had Max Fried, Spencer Strider, Chris Sale, Charlie Morton, and Reynaldo Lopez. That would have been your rotation. Your depth would be Bryce Elder, Dylan Dodd, Spencer Schwellenbach, and I would even say Grant Holmes in that mix since he's pitching tomorrow. Your bullpen would have been pretty much as advertised as it already is now. We haven't seen a ton of injuries there, but you also would have had Tyler Matzik, which if he's healthy, I think we all know that's a huge boost to the pen. And another left-handed option. Infielders, Ozzy's hurt, right? And that's a big one. Luis Guillorme, he's gone now, but that's beside the point. Catcher, Sean Murphy's been out. So that's just how much depth we've missed. And, of course, the big one, here's your outfielders. This is what we were intended to have in the outfield. Ronald Acuna, reigning MVP. Michael Harris and Jared Kelenic being your everyday outfielders with Duvall and Forrest Wall either platooning or being on the bench with Duvall and Kelenic possibly. And then, of course, Marcell Ozuna at DH. That's what was intended. How many of those guys are we missing? There's like 6 to 7 that we are currently missing right now. So in terms of the way this has shaken out, hindsight's 2020, right? It's easy to point at what's happened this year and go, well, AA didn't have a crystal ball out seeing what could happen. Of course not. But at the end of the day, the rotation at the beginning of the season was being circled as potentially one of the best in baseball, right? Now, Charlie Morton's start today aside, there's no doubt that on paper at the beginning of the year, this could have been one of the best rotations of baseball. Think about how good Chris Sale has been. At least before yesterday's start, he was leading the Cy Young Award candidacy for the National League. That would have been your number 3 guy behind Strider and Fried. So things would have looked drastically different had, of course, Strider not gotten hurt, Fried not been hurt lately. But you add all that up, it's a cumulative effect. There is no dodging it at a certain point, right? You can hide 1 or 2 injuries, but when you have 6, 7, 8, things are going to start showing themselves. And again, any other team, you give me any other team, no team's going to be as competitive or more competitive than what the Braves have been in 2024 with all of what they've had to deal with. And I will stand on that hill. So again, if there's anybody to blame, right, it's got to be the offense, right? Because let's just look at it. The basics. After all, in 2023, the team average was 276. In 24, it's 239. That's a 37-point drop. In 2023, they had a 344 on base percentage. In 2024, they got a 303 on base percentage. Good for a 41-point drop. 501 slug in 23. .406 slug this year. That's almost a whole 100 points shy of last year. They had 307 homers. If you do the math, they should have 214 by now as a team. They have 140. So that's 74 less than what they should have compared to last year. So you can look at what all they're down. You can look at, all the stats and say, well, this team, it's not doing what it did last year, and you can poke the stick at it, but there's reasons. And I think the three main ones are Ronald Acuna, Michael Harris, Ozzie Albies, the biggest one being Acuna, right? And we can look at Matt Olson and Austin Riley. I'm not going to leave them out of this. They're a problem too. They haven't performed to the level that they did last year, as has all of the offense excluding Marcell Ozuna. There's no denying it. But if your starting pitching was better, you could have circumvented a lot of these problems. The offense is down, right? Do you just decide to fire your hitting coach who led you to so much success in 23? Of course not. Again, if you didn't have these injuries, just in the rotation alone, if you had Max Fried for the entire year and he was healthy, if you had Spencer Strider, if you had Reynaldo Lopez right now, your bullpen would have to cover less innings. We've seen that play out over this week. Your lineup would have to get less runs, which we've seen. And not to mention the guys in the lineup, right? Things would just be better. It's just more natural if everybody's here. And what gets me is you have these folks who acknowledge the problem. They see that, oh yeah, well they got like 10 injuries throughout the year with substantial time. And then they go, yeah, but they should be able to just deal with that. Like these folks aren't human. I mean, I don't understand what the reaction is, but I just don't understand it. I think it's any right-minded person is going to look at what's going on this year. They're going to say, okay, your MVP, reigning MVP, got injured, taken out for the whole season in the first couple months of the season. Your best Cy Young candidate, Spencer Strider, at least going into the season, got hurt in his second or third start. Okay? Reynaldo Lopez gets hurt shortly after the All-Star break. Max Fried gets hurt shortly after the All-Star break. Michael Harris is out for a month. Ozzie Albies breaks his wrist. He's going to be out for 2 months. And a logical person adds all that up and goes, yeah, I see, the team isn't performing like they did last year, but I can understand why. But the folks that acknowledge all these injuries and then proceed to say, well, yeah, they have all these injuries, but it's Snit's fault. It's Alex Anthopoulos' fault. It's Kevin Seitzer's fault. Those people drive me insane. Now, when we get back, guys, first of all, thank you for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. We really do appreciate you. If you're one of the people I'm talking about, I'm sorry. I just got to let loose today. Really appreciate you tuning in. Let us know what you think in the comments. We're going to read those in a few minutes. Remember, Super Chats do get priority. They get you put in the front of the line. Also, if you would, again, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications, just so you can be a part of the On Deck community. We'd love to have you. Also, when we get back, we're going to go ahead and preview this upcoming series against the Rockies and tell you how important it is for the remainder of this season.
Are you ready to save big on a new GMC?
At Clint Smith GMC in Opelika, you can own one of the best-selling vehicles in the USA. The GMC Sierra pickup is discounted up to $14,500 off. The roomy and comfortable GMC Terrains are up to $8,250 off. And the GMC Acadias with 3 spacious rows and seating for 7, discounted up to $8,000 off. At Clint Smith GMC in Opelika,
Get ready to smile.
Again, thank you for being here tonight. Really do appreciate it. Again, while you're here, please do me a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck and, of course, with your Atlanta Braves. So let's go ahead and talk about the next series. Let's just wipe that one with the Brewers out and move on because it's not going to help anybody looking back at that again. So this upcoming series is in Colorado. Grant Holmes will be starting Game 1 for the Braves. Grant Holmes has had 2 really good outings as a starter, and to be honest with you, when it was announced that they were going to give Schwellenbach a little bit of, extra rest, I thought they were going to put in Grant Holmes. I was kind of surprised to see Bryce Elder, but Grant has been excellent so far as a starter. That can change at any moment, but so far he's been really good. He's got a 3 ERA. He'll be going up against Tanner Gordon, who's 0-3 on the year. He's got a 6.75 ERA. So looking at that on paper, it may seem like, Grant Holmes is the favorite, but keep in mind he's very inexperienced at the major league level. A lot can happen, especially in a ballpark like in Colorado. So, we'll see what happens. Grant's been really solid through 2 starts. He had a great interview with the 4-man booth yesterday. Got to know him a little bit there. Game 2, we'll see Max Fried versus Cal Quantrill. Max Fried, of course, looking for a rebound start. He's had an up and down year, but if he can have a good start in Game 2 against the Rockies, that'll be good. Cal has gone 7-8 this year with a 4.56 ERA. We don't have a starter named for Game 3 this series. I assume it's going to be Spencer Schwellenbach. I mean, I guess it could change. But he'll be going up against Kyle Freeland, who's got a 5.65 ERA. Now, naturally, in Colorado, this goes without saying, but all of these pitchers have high ERAs. So I think this could be a time where the Braves break out and mojo starts changing and that kind of thing. I really do. And it needs to, because right now we are once again in a race against time with the New York Mets. And as much as the struggles have happened this year, nobody wants to lose to the Mets. So if they're going to win, they got to start winning now. And really, I think at this point, the Braves are around 8 games back, depending on what happens tonight with the Phillies. But here's the thing, right? Yeah, they're 7.5. Nope. They're 8 games back officially. So if the Phillies win tonight, we'll be 8.5 back. The Mets are above us in the division by a half a game. They're above us in the wild card by half a game, and that is never fun. They now head to face Seattle, which I think is going to be a challenge for them. We'll see what happens, but at the same time, we get to face Colorado, who AJ Smith-Shawver pitches Sunday. Really? Is that true? That's interesting. If AJ Smith-Shawver pitches, that really intrigues me. We'll see. I think ultimately with whatever happens Sunday, they got to explore other options. Bryce Elder has not been the guy. We'll see what happens. But AJ Smith-Shawver, I'm a big supporter of. I think he's got a bright future. And I think he's got the best stuff out of our pitching options. So we'll see. Yeah, he had a solid outing in Gwinnett a few weeks ago. It's we'll see. We'll see. It says that his injury was worse than what we thought it was. This is 5 days ago, but obviously it's talking about a few weeks before. So yeah, if it's AJ Smith-Shawver, I'm okay with that. We'll see what happens. But either way, the series with the Rockies, I believe personally, has got to go the Braves' way, right? It's got, in some capacity. Either they win 2 of 3 or they sweep. They have got to win a series here. And ultimately, when you look at where we are right now, you got to get past the Mets. You got to start winning if you're going to have a chance in the postseason. Because a lot of folks are, talking doom and gloom. And to be fair, we did that for the whole first segment of this show. I'm aware of it. But if we're going to talk doom and gloom, you also have to mention the fact that, look, at some point, you're getting Harris back. You're getting Lopez back. You're getting Ozzie back. You just got Fried back. So things can come back together, at least partially. And look, this is going to be a very unpopular opinion. I'm aware of it. But if the Braves make it to a wild card series this year, with all of what they've dealt with, that's something they can be proud of. Again, it's not what you want. I know everybody wants a World Series or bust, but there is no reason to not be proud of that. None at all. So for me and what I think, I really think that they're going to try to piece this together and make it. This could be your last year with Max Fried. This could be your last year with Charlie Morton. They're going to try to get as much out of this group as they possibly can. And I'm intrigued to see what they do. So that's going to wrap up our look at the next series. When we get back, we go through your comments, and we're going to start with one Ron Lung for the Super Chat. So that's when we get back.
Are you ready to save big on a new Chevrolet?
Make your way to Glenn Smith Chevrolet. Choose America's #1 compact SUV, the Chevy Equinox, discounted up to $6,500 off. The powerful Chevy Silverados are up to $13,750 off. And the big Chevy Silverado 2500 HTs are discounted up to $6,000 off. Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for being here. Of course, now is the time we open it up to the comments section. We appreciate you all being here. Just a reminder, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here and on deck. And of course, really appreciate you all being here. We're going to start with one Ron who leaves us a super chat. Thank you for that. Really do appreciate it. He says, first off, thank you for the content. Now, being a Braves fan since 1988, Braves fans are spoiled. Fire Snit, fire AA, fire everyone. Are we the only team that isn't allowed to have a bad season? Jeez. Well, yeah, and I mean, for me, Ron, I completely agree with you, number one. But has it, all things considered, has this been a bad season, right? And yes, of course it has. I hear you. But, again, with all of what we've had to deal with, this could have been much worse, right? And you can point your fingers and say, it's your fault, it's your fault. There's no doubt whose fault it is, and it's the injury bug. That's whose fault this is, in my opinion. Everybody's going to hold some responsibility for the lack of offense. People are going to hold responsibility for themselves in terms of players. They're always going to ask themselves, is there something more I could be doing? Is there something more I could have done? But at the end of the day, from an objective person on the outside, I'm looking at this going, how can y'all possibly, do anything? You're hurt up and down the roster. It's blatant to me. So, Ron, thank you for the super chat. Really do appreciate it. Remember, super chats do help support the channel. We really appreciate those of you that do super chat with us. We appreciate that. And again, we appreciate all of you being here. But the best thing you can do to support the channel is, of course, liking the video and subscribing. Really would appreciate that. Helps us get it out to a bigger audience. And, of course, the more audience we have, the better conversations we have. And, of course, the more this channel grows. And we want you to be a part of it. So, again, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications. Let's go ahead and go to Little E. Are you related to Big E from WWE? Why doesn't anyone in media question Snicker putting a lefty, AJ Minter, in a tie game back on the 7th? So this is yesterday. Yeah, I was there. With two runners on base to face. That's a tongue twister. Face 5 right-handed batters due up, 4 right-handed and 1 switch hitter. It's a fair question, but I think, in terms of what the actual problems are on the team, I think it's kind of a moot point, again, with where we were in the pen and who we had available. I guess we could have thrown out Rysell there, but I'm not one to question a manager typically, and I'm certainly not one to question Snit, just because he's got more experience than probably this entire chat combined. That said, I wouldn't bring in a lefty to face 4 right-handed hitters. That's not what I personally would do if I had a righty available. But to my point earlier, I really think that it's more counting on a guy that and counting on a guy to kind of save you in a way, and just become that much more reliable in a reliever. AJ Minter, we've seen in tough situations over the past couple of years. He's 8 out of 10 times I'd say he's able to come through, but I don't know. Our bullpen was so depleted at that point. Maybe a Joe Jimenez, but he was used the day before, if I'm not mistaken. Other than that, I guess it's Rysell, and you're trying to save him for, potentially the 9th inning. So, I don't know. I don't know. Joseph Alvarez says, who's to blame? The baseball gods. LOL. We have so many injuries and lots of bad luck. This team this year, no one is really hitting well. This is not a playoff team right now. I don't disagree, especially in the old way of the way the playoffs were constructed. I don't think this team is a playoff team right now. I think they were on opening day, and I think they could be when everybody's healthy. But we'll see if they sneak in, and if they sneak in, everybody's got a shot, right? This team could be dangerous in a 3-game wildcard series. After that, I don't know. There's not a lot of depth. There's not a lot of, I'm keeping it real with you. I would love for this team to be a contender because, frankly, we have more content that could go deeper into October, which is better for the channel. So, selfishly, I wish this team was as dominant as they were last year. That said, as dominant as they were last year, where did it get us? Eliminated in the first round of the playoff. So, we'll see. Anthony Ruganath says professional players not playing. That's what's happening. Brew Crew putting the bat on the ball and they all can run. Yeah, that's what they do. They were pesky. If you listen to the broadcast last night, this tells you how big of a nerd I am. I was in the press box yesterday with the game right in front of me, and I have my headphones on listening to the 4-man booth broadcast through my computer with, like a no joke, 1.5-minute long delay from what I'm actually seeing. And look, all the guys in there were talking about how specifically Smoltz, because he's seen them more than anybody, just how good that team is at fouling off pitches, at getting on base, running the bases, forcing action to happen. And it reminded me, man, we used to be that way. The Braves used to be that way, and I think they still could be that way. But right now, they're just not that. And, it's unfortunate, but it's because of what all they're missing. They're missing, like 4 guys out of the lineup right now? To me, it's obvious what the issue is. I put Who's to Blame on there and Snicker because, frankly, I knew people would click it because I've seen it all day long. And it is what it is. Hey, you, not you. Hey, you. No real leadership on the team. I never thought Snit was ever a good coach. Missing Ron Washington and Eric Young, but I still feel if Albies can come back soon, the Braves could sneak into the playoffs. All right. In terms of Snit not being a good coach, I'm going to ask this, and I know you can't respond to me live, but I'm going to ask it. Did you think Bobby Cox was a good coach? Right? And I don't mean looking back in the glory years in 95. Did you think Bobby Cox was a good manager? I'm sure there were times that you didn't, right? Because I know people who couldn't stand Bobby Cox on different days of the week, right? It just is what it goes with the territory. Managing is a thankless job. It is a absolute thankless job, especially if your team isn't playing well. Ask the White Sox manager who got fired, right? Who, by the way, this is my point in terms of management. Managing is important, right? Having a figurehead at the top of your team to defend your players and to, of course, come up with the lineup every day, manage your pitching staff, that kind of thing, and play chess while everybody else is executing their job. That is very important. I think there is some aspects of it that is lost today with the DH and with analytics kind of controlling everything and all of that. But the act of managing is very important. But it is a thankless job because you can be put into a situation where you have no ability to be successful. And I think that's where we are with the White Sox right now. The Angels are another example, right? Like Ron Washington takes that job, at the beginning of this year and is expected to make all these advancements with all of these heavy contracts that he can't get rid of. He's got Anthony Rendon on his team, and that's enough, to make it hard for him. And he's got good young players, good players in general, but the team doesn't fit. And he's got to somehow make them work. And when it doesn't work, guess who gets criticized? Ron Washington, even though the team was just as bad last year. That's what managing is. Pedro Grifol, I hope I'm getting that name right, gets fired from the White Sox because they're like 29-83 or something on the year. That team would not have been successful if Connie Mack came out of the grave and managed it, okay? Nobody would have made that team successful. Nobody. And you can bet on that. I don't think anybody would have made that team successful. The reason he got fired is because he's the manager, he's the scapegoat, right? And really that's an organizational thing. What I'm telling you is this, and this is my point when it comes to Snit. A lot of folks that are saying fire Snit. If you fire Snit, you start over. You start over, right? You start over relationships with all the players you have, all the players you have signed long-term, who are playing for that guy, who have known that guy, who trust that guy, and you just walked them out the door because they didn't play well. Not because Snit didn't play well. They did not play well. And you could argue, well, Tyler, they're not being put in situations where they can perform. Really? Who? Everybody's got a chance to hit in the past couple weeks, correct? And we haven't seen any of it. Riley's hitting a little better. He's getting on base. Olsen is still struggling. So my point is, you got to have some continuity. You got to be willing to go with Snit and trust in Snit, trust in the process during the hard times, just as you have through the good times, right? This, again, is not college football where you win a national championship one year, you're praised, and you lose 6 games the next and you get fired. That's not how baseball operates. Now, here's what I would say. If the Braves were in the situation they're in right now and you didn't have these injuries and you had the 5th highest payroll, you'd have an argument. But you don't because of what he doesn't have. It's not like Snit isn't doing what Alex Anthopoulos wants him to do, wants him to put on the field. They meet every day. They talk about exactly what they're going to do. So it's not what Snit is doing that's the problem. In terms of the message to the team, I don't think there is a better message than, look, I know you're struggling. I know it's been a rough patch, but I believe in you. That's who Snit is, right? He's not, hey guys, come on, that's not how you make this better. It's just not. And you're going to bring in somebody else with a completely different mentality. I hate to break it to you. If you're not a Snit fan, you're arguably not a Braves fan, because Snit has been in this organization, raised by this organization for 40 years. There is nobody else that's going to do it as good as him. Maybe Ron Washington. I've seen that name thrown around. But he's in Anaheim, and he wasn't going to be on the Braves. He wasn't going to be the Braves manager till Snit left. For those of you that want Snit gone, I will offer this to you. He will be 70 years old come next year. His contract is up at the end of that year. I think at that time you may see him walk away. But I don't think the Braves are going to force him out in any way, shape, or form. Because, again, what kind of message does that send to your Austin Riley, who's signed to a 10-year deal, Harris, who's signed to a 10-year deal, Olsen, who's signed long-term? What kind of message does that send? Hey, you don't do your job, we're going to ship you out of here? Because that's going to make a player want to perform, right? I think it's a delicate situation. It sucks, but Snitker has to go through it with these players. And look, there's nobody I want there, other than Snit, because again, he's a player's manager. Player screws up, Snit's going to have a defense for him. They may handle it privately, but to the media, to me, to you, to all the folks that see the press conference, it's a non-issue, right? Let's go ahead and answer this super chat. Appreciate you, Ron. Do people actually understand what managers do at a high level? All this Snit coaching staff hate is unwarranted. We don't do much when it comes game time. It's philosophy and preparation. Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's experience. It's being there before. We aired a clip before the show. I didn't even think about it when I did it, but when I aired it, you heard Kyle Wright talk about Snit, kind of having a gut feeling and leaving him on the mound back a couple of years ago. That was the year he led the league in wins. He doesn't do that without Snit, So I'm not saying Snit's perfect. Nobody's perfect. But I don't think he's the fault in this scenario. I don't think Alex Anthopoulos is the fault in this scenario. I think it is a chain of very, very unlucky events that have all added up to being one hell of an unlucky season. Hopefully it turns around, but that's where we're at. Nobody needs to lose their job. This is not Chicago. This is not Miami. That's not how the Braves are going to operate. When Freddie Gonzalez was asked to step down, Snitker was brought in as an interim. He won them over because of how well he knows this game. You know, he was in the minors forever. We all know the story. You cannot convince me there is somebody that knows it better than him. Not this organization. I don't buy it. So again, thank you for the Super Chats, one Ron. Remember, Super Chats do give you priority, and they get you moved to the front of the line. Let's see. Matt Malk says, I don't care how many trades we make. If our all-stars aren't hitting, we're not winning games. That's the thing, right? Most of the fingers I've seen pointed are at management, and I'm sitting here going, and I don't want to blame any players, but I'm sitting here going, okay, Riley had a stretch there where he didn't do anything. Olson's still in that stretch. Kelnick's a streaky player. But it's not just one guy. It's everybody outside of Ozuna offensively. And I would even say Soler because he's only been with us a week. So it's not, you can't sit here and just say, you're the problem, right? Because we can do that with anybody. We can look at Orlando Arcia. We can look at all the injured players. Hey, you're the problem. You got hurt, right? We can look at Sean Murphy. We can look at Travis d'Arnaud. We can look at Riley. We can look at Olson. We can look at Ozzy. All these guys. We can point fingers at everybody. But I don't think that's the issue. And look, I could be wrong, but I'm telling you as a guy who goes in the clubhouse on a regular basis, talks to these guys on a regular basis. I'm not saying I know more than you. That's not what I'm saying at all. All I'm saying is that's not the vibe I get, personally, is that the clubhouse is lost. And Snit needs to get... That is not what I get at all. Miguel. All right, here we go. Hey, Tyler, I disagree with you. The injuries were the reason that Atlanta collapsed. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Braves offense was inconsistent all of the time. Murphy, Arcia, Olson, they don't produce when it matters. That's fine, but you can't get any continuity in the lineup when everybody's hurt. Josh Gillum says he didn't make any moves because he didn't think we could win anyway. What other reason would it possibly be? The market, I think. I don't see... Did anybody really believe we could win back in 21? There's a lot of people that didn't. And I thought we had a fighting chance, but we were certainly not the favorite. I don't think the mentality has changed that much in 3 years. Not when you have the same GM, same manager, same makeup of the team, and really the same scenario in a lot of ways. I don't think that's the case at all. We'll see. Let me see. Double A is overrated. I was going to show the World Series ring. He's got one of those. So, a lot of GMs don't have that. Richard Davis wants me to get off the injury excuse. Hang on a second, Richard. Hang on a second. Let me find it. Get off the injury excuse. Okay. I'm all about not having excuses, right? I'm a big proponent of not having excuses. But when it's Spencer Strider, Ronald Acuna, Michael Harris, Reynaldo Lopez, Max Fried, Ozzy Albies, Sean Murphy, Tyler Matzik, I just named off 8 guys, and I don't think I got them all. It's not an excuse. It's a reason. There's a difference there. Easy Tiger says, Tyler, your takes are always spot on in my view, fair and level and realistic. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I try to be fair and level and realistic. I really appreciate that. I wish you could tell some of my friends that because I've been arguing about Brian Snitker all day. But I will stand my post. I will be the responsible one. Yellow Snowman. That is, oh, geez. Okay, what a name. I love that, by the way. I think if Braves went 0-162, Tyler still wouldn't say anything about fire. No, I would say something at that point. Look, I get things are going bad, okay? But again, if things were going bad and you didn't have these injuries, I would be all for, all right, it's time to clean house, right? I would give you my unwarranted opinion of it. But that's not there. And look, it's easy to be the guy on the outside going, well, they suck. Okay, why? Why are they not playing well? Let's find that out. Okay, they're missing multiple All-Stars. They're missing a Cy Young candidate, a reigning MVP. They're a little worse for wear in the injury side of things. And that happens. That doesn't make them any less of a team, but it's a reason things are not going well. Does that mean that they can't overcome it? No. They're going to try, but you can't sit here and look at it and go, yeah, they should be able to just deal with it. You know, I mean, that's a lot different than looking at, we'll call the White Sox out for a second. Okay, why do the White Sox suck? Let's talk about that. Well, they don't have good organization. They haven't really built. They're amidst a rebuild, but they don't know what they really want to do. They have no strategy in terms of moving forward. Otherwise, they would have traded Garrett Crochet if they could have kept his mouth shut. That's another story. They would have traded Luis Robert. They're a poorly run organization, in my book. It could change, but in my book, that's currently how they are. There's a lot of organizations that run that way. The Colorado Rockies, we're about to face them. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know why they signed Chris Bryant. I don't know what they're doing. The Cubs, they didn't go all the way in on their rebuild. That kind of boggled my mind. I'm all for calling somebody out who's not doing their job. But I am sitting here telling you, there is no one within the Braves organization that will tell you Snit's not doing everything in his power to make this a winning ball club, which right now it still is. But no one is going to overcome this kind of loss. No one. I appreciate the comment, but yeah, I mean, I would tell you if I thought somebody needed to go. I would tell you. There have been times over the years where that thought went in my mind, not about Snit or anybody, but, maybe we need to improve here and do something different here. I would love to have Ron Washington back, and EY for that matter. I thought, that I knew that was going to be a big loss. But that's not to say that Matt Tuiasosopo isn't doing what all he can do at third base. It's just not fair to criticize that. They're put in a spot and given an opportunity to do something with it. I don't think they've necessarily done a bad job. I think you've seen a little bit of a drop in terms of our success rate in sending runners home. And it's certainly our base running, but I don't know that you attribute that to Matt Tuiasosopo and not the runners themselves, right? I mean, we don't have a ton of speed right now. And, it just is what it is. Might Be Genius says, Semper sounds like a negative Nancy. Who's Semper? Well, none of my business. That's all I'm going to say. New Turbo says, there is a problem with leadership and club chemistry. They are not having fun like they did last year. Well, they were also winning a lot last year. That kind of helps, In terms of the club atmosphere, just as an onlooker, I'm in the clubhouse every so often. You walk in and people are telling each other, how you doing, hugging, laughing, more than you would expect. Even after days where they lose. I mean, that still happens, right? Like they are still very positive. And to be honest with you, Marcell Ozuna is one of the most positive people in the clubhouse I've seen. Michael Harris is another. But they're all that way. There's nobody that just goes in a corner and shuts off. You have people who don't want to talk to folks like me, but nobody isn't talking to their teammates. That does not exist. And I think that would be more obvious in a situation like that. So I don't know that it's really a club chemistry and leadership as much as it is just not having some tools in the bag. I mean, go fix your air conditioner and don't use any tools, or don't have half the tools you need, right? Or go build a house and don't get a hammer. You're gonna be a little out of luck, right? And that's, to me, is more the issue than anything. Yellow Snowman, Tyler, with all due respect, are you on the Braves payroll? I wish I was, but no, I'm not. I work in Columbus, Georgia, 2 hours south. I'm not on the Braves payroll. I don't think that you can fairly sit here and criticize a manager who is down half the team. I just don't think it. And look, I respect those of you who are coming out and being honest and saying, look, I'm angry, I'm mad at Snicker, I'm mad at Alex, I'm mad at Kevin Seitzer, and I want the whole team to burn, right? I respect that. But I disagree. It's not that I'm, I don't owe them anything. I'm telling you what I think the legitimate reasons are. And look, things aren't going to get better until folks start getting healthy. And if you don't believe me, and I know a lot of you don't like Snit right now, but listen to Snit, any post-game interview he ever does. It's difficult to win when half your team isn't healthy. I think that's a fair point. But, what do I know? Krusty says, Braves lost that loving feeling with Acuna gone, of course, but we also won the World Series without him in 21. Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest with you, I think when Acuna went down, it was almost a rallying point in the sense of, look, we've done it before, we can do it again. We're not going to let this injury stop us. When Strider got hurt, he even said they can win a World Series without me. It's not about any one guy. It's the fact that Strider's hurt, Acuna's hurt, Ozzy's hurt, Reynaldo's hurt. Fried has been hurt. I mean, I can continue to go through the list, but you all know in this list you have 1 All-Star, 2 All-Star, 3 All-Star, 4 All-Star, 5 All. You have 6 All-Stars not playing right now. Right now. Well, with the exception of Fried. So you have 5 not playing at this moment on one team. Not this year, just in general, former and current All-Stars. I'm just saying, it's going to be tough to circumvent any issues when you're losing that kind of depth. But that's just me. Let's see. Easy Tiger says, most of the complainers honestly will complain no matter what kind of year the Braves are having. Y'all complain 2021. They complained last year too. I'm kind of used to it. I get all kinds of crazy criticisms on here. I've heard it all. Everything from you need to change your shirt to you need a haircut to whatever the case may be. I've heard it all. It doesn't get more personal in my comment section. That said, there's a lot of folks. And my friend who I talked about earlier, Palmer Marlowe, if you're watching, he was mad last year when the Braves won over 100 games, different days. What is Snit doing? And it's like, he's planning for tomorrow. If you ask me about specific situations and I have all the information in front of me, I can tell you why he's doing what he's doing. And as long as I can follow the reasoning, I'm good. But you can't sit here and just say, well, Snit doesn't know how to manage the bullpen. I can point to the entirety of the 2021 postseason and tell you that that's not true, right? And I know everybody's going to bring up the Tyler Matzik thing. Tyler had to save him. Sure, but it's a postseason series. I mean, you're going to have moments where, your pitcher gets overwhelmed like Luke Jackson did. Like Krusty says, that's life. That's life. Let's see. A lot of folks in here tonight. D. Carroll, I see you. She says, I don't think we knew how much Coach Wash meant to the team. I did. I knew when he left that was going to be big. It was talked about a little bit when it first happened, but not as much as it should have been. If you don't know, I've interviewed Ron Washington. I've had good interactions with him. I have nothing but good things to say about Wash. I hated to see him go, but gosh, I was happy for him because I knew how much he wanted to manage. I wish he'd been able to do it in Atlanta. In a different time and different place, I wish he would have been able to do it in Atlanta. Let's see. Easy Tiger says, if you want to get all bent out of shape because they're in a bad stretch or just try to enjoy the game and be positive, y'all ain't in the pro baseball world, so you have no credibility. Unfortunately, neither am I, really. I'm just kind of a guy that shows up and goes games. By that standard. I just think, it's easy. It's easy to point and look at what somebody else is doing and criticize it. Put yourself in the shoes and say, how would I manage losing all these guys? How would I manage the offense not performing like, it should? And I think you'll kind of realize. Let's see. Might Be Genius says, Schwellenbach is a good start. We need to find at least 2 more good young players. No more signing washed players. A lot of folks have been talking about the quote-unquote washed players. I hear there's one guy that comments in here about the Oakland A's players, talking about Sean Murphy and Matt Olson. I don't think that's true. I think Murphy has had a lot of time on the injured list since being in a Braves uniform, and unfortunate, but hopefully he can eventually find his way. I will agree that his first couple of seasons in a Braves uniform have not been what I was hoping they would be, and I think I was far from the only one that thought he'd be better in a Braves uniform, but, New Turbo says, of course, fans complain whenever the team is doing bad, like fans of every team. If you want to be a cheerleader, then go ahead and give us something to look forward to since you're here. I guess you're talking to me. I would say in terms of, being a cheerleader, I don't mind that title. I'm okay with that. I mean, I run a whole channel based on the Braves, so their success kind of helps me be successful in a lot of ways. That said, in terms of what to look forward to, I think it's obvious what you're looking forward to. You're looking at getting Harris back, Lopez back, and you got Fried back, but you're looking to get Ozzie back. That's going to be like getting 3 new players. It's going to feel that way, especially after this past 3 games. So, I don't know. I just think it's unfair to look at what we have going on right now and pick out one guy as the scapegoat and go, yep, that's the problem. I mean, do you guys really want to burn the whole thing down? Because if you do, conversation's over, right? I mean, do you really want to tear what we have built, what we rebuilt for, all the way down? Because if that's the case, then, what are we talking about? I'm trying to see what we can salvage out of this year. Oh, Lord. Some of these comments I can't read. Thank you, DP. Little E says, I believe Ron Washington was stealing signs last year. Wow, what an accusation. So much better last year. This year it's Ozuna and nobody. Stealing signs is a crazy accusation. I'm not going for that. You agree with me? A lot of folks in the chat tonight really appreciate it. Doug says, dumb Kelnick trade is the reason AA couldn't make more moves at the deadline. Fletcher, $6 million, and Carpenter, $5 million were domino effects of the Kelnick trade. I don't know. I can't remember the ins and outs of that trade. I don't think we lost a ton in that trade. Fletcher, I'll agree. He's down in the minors making $6 million. Carpenter, though, are we paying that? I didn't know we were paying that. I think we could have, to be honest with you, I think if something had been there that the Braves would have wanted to do, they would have blown past whatever luxury tax or whatever would have. I think they would have blown past it. Because let's be real, for them to compete against the Dodgers and the higher echelon of the upper payrolls, they're going to have to blow past that at some point anyway. I think that's coming. We'll see what happens. Matt Mock says Sale needs to be pitching every 5th day at this point. Well, he was for a while. I think they're worried about his workload, and I can understand that just because they don't want to push anything past where it needs to go. I mean, we've seen him face injuries before. They just don't want to deal with it. They don't want him to deal with it because they want him here next year to be successful next year too. So he is our best pitcher on the mound right now, no doubt about that. But I also understand kind of why they're holding back on that. Let's see. A lot of folks in here. DP says super chat. Yeah, super chat, everybody. Appreciate that, DP. Appreciate all you guys tuning in tonight. Again, please do like the video before we get out of here. We're going to be on here a few more minutes, but not too long. So appreciate all you guys being in here. John Kruger, not related to Freddie, says, Tyler, now you're behind 3 teams in the wild card. Yeah, but you're a half game back. We were at the top of the wild card 3 days ago. That can change pretty much in a week. I'm not overly concerned about that. It's not going to matter if we can't get hitting right and we can't get healthy. It's just not. It is what it is. Krusty says, dude, you got a sweet mic. Thank you. I appreciate it. It looks goofy to me, but thank you. I appreciate you liking it. A lot of folks in the chat tonight. Really do appreciate it. Let's see. Krusty must have said something Corey didn't like, I guess. A lot of folks in the chat tonight trying to keep up. Green Tea says, what do you think of the game played at Bristol next year? That's a good question. Will they break the MLB attendance record? I don't know. Where it's located is in between both teams. I'm actually going to try to go cover that if I can. We'll see about that. I don't know. I've never even been to a NASCAR race, so I would love to do that. That said, in terms of what I think about it, I think it's good for the game. I think it's in a way to expand the game, Do I think they'll break the attendance record? I think they're going to push to, but I don't know. I mean, it can hold 150,000. So I don't think they're going to fill it up, but I think they may break the attendance record just to break the attendance record. So I'm more interested, to be honest with you, the dynamics of how they're going to form a baseball field around that, around Bristol. I'm just curious to see the layout of it, which I haven't seen yet. It may be out there, but I haven't seen it. Let's see. New Turbo says, I see Strider coming back strong, but Acuna with the second ACL injury is more questionable for his play style. Yeah, I mean, I think Acuna very well may kind of slow down on the stealing bases situation. I think it may be more of a DH type of situation. A lot of folks have said that. But he's still young too, right? So it may be something where we see it down the road. It may be something where, down the road, if we re-sign him or if he goes to another contract, where we start to see the fallout of these two ACL injuries. I think that there's a lot of different ways this can go. I did a video the other day. I clipped it from a live stream anyway. But I did a video the other day talking about what are we going to do with Soler and Ozuna, because you're going to have Soler when Acuna comes back. Somebody's got to play right field full time. Are you going to put Soler out there? Are you going to put Acuna out there? What do you do with Ozuna if you put Soler at DH? I mean, what do you do, right? There's a lot of different ways it could go. I originally proposed the idea of trading Soler once you pick up Ozuna's option for this year and then you trade Soler. The more I thought about it, you could pick up Ozuna's option and trade Ozuna for whatever you want. Because everybody needs a DH. You have an option anyway. You have Soler, and you'd be getting Acuna back. And then you could pick and choose if you want to give Acuna rest. You can put him at DH, and you can put Soler in the outfield if you want to. Plus, you have Soler locked up for longer than Ozuna. So it kind of fits, and I think Soler would fit better as a natural DH anyway. I think that's kind of where he thrives. So that idea is out there. That said, it's not going to be easy to walk away from Ozuna, even if you get Acuna back at full health and full ready to go. I am definitely concerned about what Acuna is going to be. It's all about how he recovers and what he does. We saw what he was when he came off his first ACL. The first year was not as good as the second. I think that could be what we see in a couple of years. But, we'll see. He's far from the only player to come back from something like this. We've seen a lot of players have a torn ACL. I don't know how many have torn it in both knees, but I know the number is obviously low. I'm curious to see what happens, but it'll be interesting, right? It'll be interesting. Tom Brady has done it. Other athletes have done it. I'm just kind of looking it up. Look, Chipper was on little to no knees when he was playing back, but he was 40. So I'm intrigued to see what happens. I know Mickey Mantle had a lot of problems. We'll see what he does. But, yeah, he very well could be a DH. That is a strong possibility. It may be a year or two away, but it could happen. No doubt about that. Let's see. A lot of folks in here. BoJack 2020 says, I would rather be the number 6 seed in the postseason facing the Brewers. We beat the Brewers in 21. I do not want to face the Phillies, Padres, or Diamondbacks. Well, as easy as that is to say, as easy as it is to say you'd rather be the 6th seed and just face the Brewers because we beat them in 21, they're a completely different team. They're still a small market team, but gosh, did they whip our tail this week. I don't know if I'd want to face them in the postseason after this week, to be honest with you. But I think what you have to focus on is just getting to be the best version of the team you can be, right? Like just making sure you're as hot as you have been all year at the right time, because that's what we didn't do last year. We can all point to last year as a prime example of the regular season really has no impact when it comes to the postseason. That is 100% true. Little E says Braves will not make the playoffs and all the hype will be around injuries. But I say it's Snickers' fault, period. Stupid man. I guess you're calling me stupid. I don't know. But I can take the heat. Don't worry about it. I don't know what Krusty did, but you were making a lot of folks mad in here, Krusty. I thought we had something good going. Thank y'all for taking out the trash, I guess. I don't know. One Ron says, I don't even... Okay, yeah, y'all are talking to Krusty, so I'm going to just scroll on past that. Let's see. Scott Tomahawk, do you think there is a cancer in the clubhouse right now? I've often wondered. No. No, I don't. No. I think you have actually a very healthy clubhouse, especially... like Ozzy is a really good influence. Ozuna, I mentioned earlier, really good influence. Duvall, good influence. Riley, good influence. I mean, there's nobody I can think of that's like, man, that dude's a jerk. And again, I mean, this is with media in the room. We only get a designated time. But I don't think there's a cancer in the clubhouse. Not at all. Ron, you better watch your language. Let's see. Miguel Freaka. Hey, Tyler, the guys who need to be traded are Murphy and Olsen. They don't produce. We're talking about the guy who hit 54 homers last year. He's probably going to end with 30 this year. I know it's a big drop-off, but, come on. Come on. Let's just be a little patient. Julie, I hear you. I'm only just giving you, I'm just giving you a scenario. I'm not saying what should happen. Personally, I think you ought to trade Soler and leave Ozuna. That said, if you're looking at it from a business perspective, I can understand if they were to do the other. But from a fan perspective, from a someone with no real vested interest financially in it, I would keep Ozuna just based off the year he had. He's earned the right to a club option. I think he's earned the right to a 2 or 3 year extension. And then you could trade Soler and maybe get a starting pitcher. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not entertaining this idea of getting rid of Olsen, Murphy, Elder, Duvall, and Morton. Because who would you have left at that point? Let's see. Do you think the 5-day layoff after the National League 1 and 2... yeah, I do. I've gone on rants about that. I don't want to do that tonight because I'm actually about to wrap this show up. I've pretty much gotten through this entire comment section in a timely manner, I would say. But yeah, I'll go for it. I have a huge problem with the playoff scenario, the playoff format. I really don't like it. I didn't like it when they first announced it. I was on the Trevor Bauer agreement train there when he first came out against it because 5-day layoff, I mean, anybody that's ever played baseball knows that's not good for a team. I think it drastically affected us not only last year, but the year before. I think it made us late on heaters. I think it made us lost at the plate. And it's supposed to be an advantage, and it's not an advantage. And a lot of people would say, well, you're a major league player. Deal with it, right? Do something, find a way around it. The Braves tried. I was there last year when they went after and did they opened the stadium up to fans to basically help practice, right? Just to feel like they were doing something. Max Fried pitched against A.J. Smith-Shawver. It was a crazy day. But even with that, I look at it and I'm like, that's not the same. It's just not the same. You have one team who's coming out of the hottest playoff environment that they've been in all year, and you have another team who's been off for 5 days hanging out with their kids. And that's all fine and dandy, but that's what the All-Star break is for. That break that you just mentioned is longer than the All-Star break, and they're expected to be at their best, ready to compete. To be honest with you, I suggested, man, I'd rather be a wild card team at the beginning of this year. I'm starting to regret it a little bit based on how this year's played out. But at the same time, I still think that's a little true because if you can make the wild card series and be at your best, then, who wouldn't you rather do that almost? I mean, the Diamondbacks made it last year. The Phillies made it to the World Series last year, so let's see. 10-game road trip. How many wins do we need? 7. I mean, 7 would be great. I don't, let me look at the schedule ahead. I haven't looked at it. As I looked at who we were facing next. Forgive me, I haven't really dove deep in who we got after that because I've been frustrated all day with these fans. We got the Giants, who are a good team, but then we got the Angels, and then we face the Phillies at home. Here's what I'd say. Yeah, you need a good road trip, but you got the Rockies and Angels, which helps. But you got that 4-game series against the Giants. If you can sweep the Rockies, you'd be off to a really good start. If you can get 3 wins against the Giants, even better. You can win the series. Even if you split the series, you got 5 out of 7. And then hopefully you sweep against the Angels, who are a god-awful team. Anything can happen at that point. So, yeah, I mean, I think 7 is doable. But, we'll see. Let's see. Julie says, anyone who says the team didn't lose when Freddie left is kidding themselves. 2 bad moves. Freddie for Olsen, Contreras for Murphy. The Freddie situation was different, right? I think a lot of people, we don't really know what happened there. I still think his agent was at play there. I hated to lose Freddie. It absolutely stunk. But as my good buddy Ron Washington once said in an interview I did with him, if you can't have Freeman, you want Olsen. And is he as good as Freddie? Is he as, who's better? We can debate that all day. I don't really care to. What I would say is they're equal in different ways. Olsen has obviously got more upside when it comes to power numbers. Freddie's got more upside when it comes to batting average on base. Freddie, I think, is definitely more outspoken, but Olsen, I think, leads by example. And I know a lot of people are going to point to his stats. That's not what I'm talking about. I just mean coming in, doing his work every day, and getting the job done. That's the type of leader he is. In terms of Contreras and Murphy, I don't disagree with you. But again, hindsight's 2020. Murphy was a great player in Oakland. I still think he can be a great player. Past 2 years, though, we've seen Contreras get a lot better behind the plate, which he was not back then. He could always hit, and he's doing that. And to be honest with you, I'm happy for him. I hated to lose him back then. But, it's kind of what happens. It's what happens. Julie says Olsen is slow, though. Well, Freddie wasn't particularly fast. Let's be real with ourselves. Freddie wasn't no speed demon. But no, Olsen's slow. I can agree with that. He's definitely not fast. I would definitely say he's slower than Freddie, just so we're clear. But yeah, Freddie wasn't a speed. Let's not act like Freddie was Esteury Ruiz or anything. He's still slow. Corey Carter says, AA has said that he feels that a sole team leader is overrated. He feels that the clubhouse can govern itself if you have the right guys, which the Braves pride themselves on. And they do. You're absolutely right. I mean, like I said, there's no one in the clubhouse that needs to be that authoritarian like a Chipper was, or a Freddie was, or you name it. There's nobody that needs to be that, because they have a lot of guys who come in, handle their business, have a lot of pride in what they do, and that's all you can really ask for. Little E says Morton getting $20 million is robbery. Well, here's what I would say. I don't disagree. I didn't love the deal when it was made, but I would also say he did strike out Jose Altuve on a broken leg. So, if that's what the price was, I'll take it. I agree with you in terms of the budget for this year, but I also think this is more than likely Charlie Morton's last contract, and it's probably more of a, taking care of the old guy type of deal. And you don't have to love that, but I don't have an issue with it. A lot of Ozuna runs like Fred. Little E says Ozuna runs like Fred Flintstone. That's pretty good. All right, well, that's where we're going to wrap it up with Ozuna runs like Fred Flintstone. But, guys, one more time, thank you for tuning in tonight. Really do appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Really do appreciate it. You guys have been great in the chat. You guys have been great in stream attendance over the past couple of weeks since the trade deadline. We've had a lot to talk about. I wish we had something more positive to talk about. But it's part of the season, right? The ups and the downs. Hopefully by the next time we see each other, we can come in here and we can talk about how the Braves have come back and they're at the top of the wild card or pushing for the division. If not, we'll deal with that as it comes. But for the time being, that is where we are in the land of the Braves. Again, hopefully the injuries start to subside and the Braves can get on some kind of roll to end this season because for all of us, that would probably make our lives just a little bit better. With that out of the way, thank you to One Ron for all the super chats. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you for all of you that left a comment. Thank you for all of you that are watching. Thank you for liking the video. Thank you for subscribing if you have not already. And of course, thank you for hitting the bell for notifications. That way every time we go live. One more thank you goes out to our sponsor, Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika. They have been a great sponsor for us. They believe in the channel. They believe in what we're doing here. And they are just as much a part of the On Deck community as I am, as you are, as anybody is. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. And again, thank you to Glenn Smith Chevrolet. With that out of the way, guys, we will see you later.
Baseball fans, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, thank you for your support.